Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Okay. Okay, yeah, thanks for coming. And I think we will start 1 minute later. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today in the live tutorial. So actually, there is a poll in our live chat as we want to just get a sense of how many people have used language model-based chatbots or language model-based agents. It would be great if you could join the poll to react a little bit. Also, just to check if everyone can see my screen or listen to my voice. Oh, someone is asking about any link to the paper or documents. So for that, I would recommend checking it out after this live stream. Like we do include a lot of information in the description of this live stream. So if you check out this YouTube video's description, we actually add a relevant link, but you could check it out afterwards. We will keep this live stream public even after we finish it today. Yeah, I think for the presentation, we could also link it. Sure. So it's really amazing to see so many people coming today and are interested in learning about how we could actually use this AI agent better. To be honest, I'm actually very, very nervous since it's also my first time to try to share a lot of insights we have from our research in this very new way. But I do think it's a very unique chance for us to also learn about what you guys actually need. Like a lot of time, a lot of research, we focus more on the agent side, but we do think it's equally important to share on the human side, how can we make people use these AI agents better. The thing I'm most worried about is whether I can make this hour really useful. And especially as the world is changing so fast, I also don't think I know like, oh, what's the exact best way for us to leverage AI agents. However, I do still want to make this live tutorial happen for the following 3 reasons. So the first reason is myself, since I started my PhD, I've been studying human agent collaboration for almost 3 years now. However, normally when we share our research, we are sharing to the AI audience. So we focus more on the agent part. But we do want to share a lot of findings we have on the human side as well. So I think it's a great chance to use this live tutorial to communicate with a different set of audience. And the second reason is I think after these AI agents become very popular, there is a very common sentiment on the internet that, oh, these AI agents may impact our work. And a lot of things are already happening. It's really hard to predict, oh, what skills will stay useful in the next 5 years. It's actually a very, very challenging problem, even at Stanford. It's pretty unsure what university should teach people to make sure they will still stay competitive. However, I do think the skill of collaborating with AI agents well will help us to stay competitive in the next few years. Because even as these AI agents keep getting better, for those people who can use them better, I think they will still have a huge advantage. And the third reason I think is, to be very frank, I think this is a very good use of my own time in a PhD program because it does not really align with many companies' incentive to teach people how to use AI agents effectively or to achieve their goal. Because for many companies, due to many practical reasons, they need to aim for letting people use more tokens or to spend more time on their platform. So to give you interesting statistics, I saw on New York Times that some people they are suggested to use a lot of token in their work. So someone is even using over 700 million tokens a week. To get a reference of what this number means is for model GPT-2. This is an early large language model trained by OpenAI. It was pre-trained on the web data. By that time, even the whole web data is only around 40 billion tokens. However, right now, for one user, if people are telling them, oh, you should just maximize their AI usage, then it can easily use around the same number of tokens if they use it for a year. But as you can imagine, this does not really mean they will be effectively leverage AI agent for their work. So that's basically the main motivation for us to do this live tutorial today. And the reason we intend to run this live is because I hope to have more interactions with you guys to get a sense of what people need and want to know more, and hopefully answer some of your questions you probably have. So during the session, if you are having any questions, you can use a link we will later share in the chat to just ask question or upvote other people's question. And we will dedicate at least 10 minutes at the very end to try to answer questions and have some discussion. And my collaborator, Boom, he will be managing this Ask Me Everything session. And Boom, can you send that link to the live chat so people can easily access it? Thank you. Okay, it seems like there are more people joining now, and it's a great, I think we can now move to our main content. So in today's mini course, we want to cover the following parts. In the first part, I want to explain a little bit about how AI agents work in a plain language. So the goal here is not to try to tell people how to build these agents, but hopefully to demystify the machine so that next time when you are using it, you'll get more confidence, at least won't be scared away by a lot of output this agent have. If you are interested in how to build agents, you could check a lot of other tutorial our team is giving. But today we'll focus on trying to explain AI agents in a very plain language. And the second part of today's live tutorial, I will demo how to use the agents to achieve my goal. Like basically every day, how I use the agents. I think sometimes it's pretty easy for everyone to use the agent, but it's hard to use it right. Especially in my daily life, I sometimes just really hate people to share with me stuff that apparently is AI generated. So how to avoid giving people this bad impression, but at the same time, improve your productivity. Here, I want to show how I normally do things in my daily work. And the third part, to summarize a little bit, I do want to share a lot of tips people found through research about, in general, what are some good strategies to use agents in an effective way. And finally, we want to share, suppose you are interested in practicing this skill more, how you can use Collaborative Gym, which is a platform we develop, and for people who are interested in using it, we will also provide the free Claude subscription, so you don't need to worry about how to get access to the agents. So before I start, let me actually close the poll and see what are people's response. If you haven't, probably I'll still end it given our time. So it's actually interesting to see there are 64% of people say they have used both, which means they have both used language models through chatbots and also used AI agents. And there are 19% of people who only use chatbots. So, and also 6% of people who only use agents, but there are still 11% of people who hasn't used neither of them. So it seems like basically around 80% of people have some idea to use this language model through chatbots, but not everyone has the idea of using agents before. So the first message I do want to share today is if you haven't used AI agents, you should try it out. An AI agent is way more powerful than the language model you usually get access to through the chatbot interface. So why? So actually, for agents, definitely it's powered by the underlying language model, which means those models you normally get access to through chat window like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. However, for the agents, they would have way more. So normally for an agentic system, it'll have three more components that in, like come together as what people call the agent scaffolding. The first component is tool. So for the agents, when they are decided to take a certain action, such as searching online or editing a certain file, they can actually do it because people have developed certain tools the agent can use. And recently, for the major language model providers, for example, OpenAI, when they train their ChatGPT models, they would add a lot of data to ensure the model can know how to use the tool well. And also, their model will be able to know how to use a large list of tools, right? Like here, I only put a small number in my slides, but you can imagine in reality, the agent will be able to use even hundreds of tools. So you can think about this tool as basically the hands of this agent. And since people specifically train their model to use this tool well, so now the language model, which is the brain of the agent, when they combine with the hands, which is a tool, they will be more powerful than the language model alone. And the second part of the agent scaffolding is the memory. So for the memory, if you think about normally when you use this AI, it's not just send one prompt and wait it to answer. You actually have multi-turn interaction or back and forth discussion with the AI. And for this part, like the multi-turn interaction, it will be captured or remembered by the agent because it will have a memory module. And recently, for many popular agent projects, people are extending this memory to allow the agent to also keep track of things happened in previous sessions. So it means that the agent can not just only see what you have in the chat history, like the back and forth discussion in today's session, but maybe also some relevant sessions in the past. For example, suppose today I discussed the agent with my agent about a research project I'm doing and brainstorming the idea. Then tomorrow, if I want to implement a prototype, I probably don't need to share all the information I shared before because the AI agent will also remember some relevant parts in the memory. So this also makes the agent more powerful because the more you use it, you might find, well, it seems like it's easier for me to communicate with the agent. And that's the major reason because it tries to keep track of the memory about the user. And besides these two parts, another difference between the agent and a plain language model is the agent itself will try to send a train of prompts to the language model. So normally when you send a prompt to ChatGPT, what happens in the backend is they will concatenate your chat history. So basically the model will see all your chat history and the current message you send, and then let the model to use this prompt to get the answer. However, in the agentic use case, normally when you send one message to the agent, under the hood, the agentic system is doing a lot of processing. So it will try to have a lot of prompts to either to call these tools or do a lot of different things. And then it will get you back with the final output. So it actually, under the hood, use more compute and run more prompts to process even one user message. So in this sense, it's also more powerful than if you just access these models through the chat interface. So hopefully, by just explaining the difference between the language model itself and the agentic system, you now have a rough idea about, oh, what this agent actually means. And probably you can believe me that it's more powerful than the language models you normally access through the chat interface. So this is basically how the agent work at a high level. And at a low level, what the agent does in every step is something like this. So first, the agent is not just execute in a vacuum, but it will come in an environment. So normally for the today's computer-based agents, the environment for the agent is, you can think about it as a folder in your computer. So normally, like I think many people organize their files using the folder. And this is basically each file could be an execution environment for the agent. So the agent will be able to see different files in the folder, and they would also be able to maybe write some new file or create some images in the folder. So every step, what the agent will first do is it will go to observe the environment. So by observing the environment, it means the agent will go to look at what are the files this folder include, and potentially also, oh, for each file, what are some content each file has. So after getting the observation, now you can see the agent already have a sense of what's in your folder. And the agentic system will combine the observation together with its memory and what are some available tools, as we discussed before, and send it to the foundational language model. So here, the prompt send the agent system sent to the language model. This is different from the message prompt you send. It's already being augmented by the observation of the agent, its memory, and available tool. And then it will wait for the language model to think about what to do in the next step. And once the language model return, the agentic system will actually take the action. By taking the action, it means to really call those tools to make the action happen. So suppose the language model decide at this step, I want to write the file. Then there will actually be a file created by the agentic system. And suppose this is happen, you can see the environment, which is the folder, now changed, right? Suppose the previous step, the action is to write a file. Then at this point, the agent already add a new file to the environment. So it will observe the environment again. It's basically like a loop. So after it makes some change, it will make a new observation of the current environment or folder, and then use the exact same process to query the language model to decide what to do next. And the process will keep going until the agent decides, okay, it's a time to finish the execution, and I will report back to the user. So this is basically how an AI agent works, even though there is a lot of hype around this agentic system, but ultimately it's just a language model plus tools, memory, and use this loop to send a lot of different prompts to the language model before it gets back to you. It's not complicated, but we're seeing the agents as they are causing an unprecedented change in our society. As maybe starting from last year, these agents have finally crossed a capability threshold so that they could really be used in our workspace. It's not stay in the laboratory environment anymore. And people are trying to use this agent to automate many things people are currently doing for work. So here is a plot from Meter. So Meter is an AI evaluation company, a startup. So in this plot, in the x-axis, they are tracking the model release dates. And in the y-axis, they are tracking the task length where this AI agent will have a non-trivial success rate. And what they observe is that the length of the task AI can do is doubling every 7 months. And it feels like a new Moore's law in this agentic era. To give you a concrete idea about how unprecedented this change is compared to maybe 6 years ago when I just to start to work with language models. At that time, people have a hard time to make this AI to answer people's question nicely. However, right now in 2026, people can already use this agentic system to train model or to do AI research. So it's kind of crazy. Like AI researchers, we build a system that can now either automate AI research or help us at least to do AI research. So, sensing this unprecedented change at the end of 2024, I think 2024 is another turning point when people start to focus more about building these agents rather than just focus on the chatbot setup. So, at that time, we did a study to audit the automation and augmentation potential of AI agents across the US workforce. So, what is very, very special about our audit is we not only consider the technology capability, but we also consider worker desire. So what we mean by worker desire is suppose for a task is about making a draft for a specific interior design. Then we will ask those people who are actually working in the design industry to share whether they want the AI to end-to-end automate this task or what level of human participation and agent participation they think they would be ideal. So by focusing both technology capability and worker desire, we want to make a core for the field to bridge people who are building these agents and people we build for. Because a lot of time we are seeing like a lot of startups or agent development effort does not really align with people, what people want the most. And we are very happy to see our audit is included in the 2026 AI Index report, and also other teams in this space, they are trying to build benchmark to really evaluate and improve the agents in the parts where human desire the agent to help the most. So great. Hopefully, after this 15 minutes, really, really short crash course, I have convinced you that AI agents, they are really powerful and they are more powerful than a language model you normally access through ChatGPT or this type of chatbot interface. And hopefully you also get more confidence in using these agents and as they are not a mystery to you anymore. So right now, what I want to share is how I normally use AI agents in my daily work, especially on how I balance using agents to improve my productivity, but also ensure the outcome quality is great and does not look like purely AI generated. Because I feel many people, including myself, really hate to see purely AI generated content. So for today's demo, I chose to use open code. So for people who are not familiar with it, so open code is an open source agent. I chose it mainly because it supports almost all model providers. So you can choose to use OpenAI's GPT model or use Claude model or use Gemini model or use other maybe open source models. So this is pretty useful because one concern for people to use agent is sometimes the token is still very expensive, right? Like even though we think Claude is probably the most collaborative model based on our evaluation, but to be honest, Claude is quite expensive. In my daily life, I'm not using Claude all the time. So through open code, you are able to switch different model providers. And another benefit for open code is I think it's not just their advantage, but right now almost all terminal-based agents, they are all very similar to Claude Code. So you don't need to worry about switch across different agents. They are almost the same. And for people who are uncomfortable with using terminal, they also provide a desktop version, which you can download directly. So you can either choose to use the terminal to access it or to use the desktop app. And the example I picked to giving the demo is I think one major power of this AI agent is not just to help you complete your task faster. it also allows you to sometimes do things that you cannot do before. Suppose there is no help with the AI agent. So say I'm thinking about maybe opening an online bakery store. So actually, I picked the example is also because in my first year when I'm starting my Stanford PhD, after working very late one day, a senior student and I go to find food, and he told me that one bakery in the town was actually opened by a Stanford PhD student. Basically, after that person got her degree, she chose to open a bakery instead of working in computer science or math anymore. And right now, I think I resonate more and more of why she did that. But anyway, let's go back to our tutorial. So you can imagine without the agents, if I haven't done something like this, it will be very hard for me to even figure out what I need to start an online bakery, right? And even for having an online website, this will take tremendous efforts because for myself, I haven't really trained to do any front end development in the past. But right now, suppose I use agents. This is something I got after collaborating with open code powered by a Gemini model because it's quite cheap. After working with it for an hour, this is something I got. So these photos are definitely supplied by me, but the whole website and this function to add to the cart and later even place an order, they are all implemented by the agent. And also there's a fun thing here is even for this video I'm showing you now, I made it together with the agent. So the agent can even help you to make some video editing, like putting different screenshots together and make it look smooth. So because of today's time, I will not do a live demo here, but I do want to share the video I recorded when I am doing the task. So the video is directly come from the screen recording. I didn't do any editing because even for some part where the agent is kind of not making progress or slow, I do want to show it to you guys. So you would have an expectation when you are working with the agents. I recall that when I was running one human study last time, the major question I got sometimes from people is sometimes when they see the agent is taking a lot of steps, they just feel really, really anxious because they don't know if things are going well or not. But actually, it's pretty normal because if you listen to what I explained in the first part, for some complicated task, the agent needs to do a lot of observation, action loop before they can go back to you. So now I will share with you like how previously I spent like an hour to create the website. So the first thing normally you would need to do, this holds true for whatever agent you are using today, is you need to select a workspace, basically a folder you would collaborate with the agent in. So here, I actually create a new folder for making this tutorial demo, and then supply with the correct context to the folder. This is very important, and I recommend you to do it. Basically, if you want to start a new project, it would be great if you could start a new directory and put the information instead of allowing the agent to use your home directory. Because suppose you give the agent access to your home directory, that means it can read all your files. And also it can write some files, which means it may accidentally change files that you don't want it to change. So to make it safer, it's often recommended to start a new folder for different project you want to collaborate with the agent on. So after I choose the folder, what I will do is I will just start a session. This part is pretty basic. It's just similar to normally how you are communicating with other AI chatbots or any other AI project. It's basically what you need to do is you just need to prompt the agent. I won't spend too much time here because online, I think there are a lot of materials teaching you how to write prompt. But I don't think you need to be really pressured. Like here, I basically explain, oh, I want to start a bakery targeting to provide healthy food. And also the reason why I want to start this bakery is because of my PhD experience. And now I have no idea how to do it. I hope the agent can help me. So this is basically the information I included in the prompt. I won't talk too much about the prompting trick, but one thing I do want to highlight a little bit is many people sometimes feel when they are using agents, the outcome become very homogeneous or just generic, which means almost every people gets the same outcome from the AI. So a trick to making your outcome more personalized or having a high quality is actually to draw inspiration from your own experience. So here, when I'm trying to let the AI to create an online bakery to me, I draw my experience like, oh, I have this idea because of I'm doing a PhD and sometimes it's really, really stressful and I feel maybe I do not want to do CS anymore afterwards. So these are some piece of information that could help your prompt to look different compared to a lot of online messages. And if you know how these models, how these agents act, by giving it some personalized information, you normally get more personalized outcome, and it will help your content to look less like purely automated AI generated. So here, I think the AI has already give me some message, like it basically tell me, oh, I also need to select some name for my bakery, and suppose I need to have an online website. This is some tech stack I need to have. So it is pretty important when you are working with this AI agent, it's pretty important for you to carefully read what this AI agent report back. As mentioned before the agent send back the message, it's normally already doing a lot of prompting to the language model. So normally this part is the where the most value lies in. And suppose sometimes people will find, oh, it's pretty hard for me to understand, right? I don't know what this Next.js or Tailwind CSS mean, right? This happens a lot of time because we humans don't understand all the information like the agents say. Well, what's the way? The way is basically you can ask the agent. You can ask it to explain, or if you are more familiar with using ChatGPT or other chatbot, you can just send what the agent said to the chatbot to ask it to help you understand it better. But um, this is very important to check what the information that the AI report back. So here, after I read this information, I kind of have some idea. I have some idea about what it said, but I still feel a bit confused about what this doctor do actually means. So as I just execute what my suggestion to you guys is instead of panicking, I just ask the AI to explain, right, what it means by having doctor do here. And then after I send this message, these agents will just, after some thinking, it will reply to me. So here, after I got more information about what's going on in this session, another thing I want to highlight on how you can collaborate with this AI agent better is discernment, which means even though a lot of time this AI message looks pretty good and it's normally long and well written, it's still very, very important for us to critique its output. So the critique can either be you go to fact check certain part of the information. It could also be you can think whether the information provided by the AI is good enough. So here, of course, I think all the information here are correct. However, for myself, I would focus on really checking, thinking, oh, is this all the best outcome I can get, or can it make it more special? So for example, even I'm pretty satisfied with the bakery name, the sweet hypothesis, because I think it's tied to my um, PhD experience, but it's also not that obvious. So it's better than just like those doctor cake. However, I'm still not super satisfied about it because I don't think it's sweet. And also, if you know, like our research group's name is SOT. It's abbreviation of Socially Aware Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. So I want to tie in a lot of this part of information. So I just critique saying, oh, I don't like all these options. Can you make the name as the salty hypothesis? So this is basically what I reply here. So I say I type to the agent saying like I will go with the salty hypothesis, and then Um, I'll go this a little bit. And also, since I'm not completely sure about what to do next, here I communicate with the agent saying, oh, could you explain to me what the components I need to have? Suppose I need to have an online bakery. This is, I think, another trick for many people to work with this agent for long horizon tasks. Because another common failure case I see when people are working with this agent is not in those prompting detail, but it's more like this high level workflow planning. For example, suppose you have never done something before, it's even very hard for you to ask the question, right? Like it's even impossible for you to tell the agent to say, oh, no, please help me write a React front end. Suppose you don't know you need a front end at this moment, right? I think this is sometimes what confused people the most is like, oh, I don't even know how to get started. So the way to tackle this problem is before you send very, very detailed prompt, you could communicate with the AI agent first to figuring out what's the overall workflow. So for example, here I'm trying to ask agent, oh, could you explain to me what's the overall workflow I need to have to set up this website? Once the agent discuss with you and you understand, oh, maybe doing this need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, you can then use those prompting technique to come up with detailed prompt to do each step. So here I will skip this a little bit, but basically the agent is telling me, oh, to do this, you would need several parts. One part is having a front end, and also you need to have a back end to make sure you can process the order. You also need database, many things like this. It sounds a little bit scary for me. Even right now, sometimes when I see something take a lot of steps, I feel very, very nervous. But the reality is with the AI, you can let the AI to do the detailed stuff. So what you need to stay control is mainly this high level workflow. You probably need to stay aware of, oh, I need to do this front end first, and then I need to set up this backend and then the database. But in terms of how to make the front end, how to set up the backend, you can just let the AI to do it. So this, I think, a benefit for having AI agent to augment our capability. This really allows us as human to do this longer level task, right? Because you can imagine in the past, suppose there is no AI, even just doing one step of them can take me over weeks and maybe I'm unable to do it. But right now, I mainly need to be aware of the high level workflow. So I skip this a little bit, but basically here I give it some suggestion and say, oh, it can go to help me create a front end first. And after working for several minutes, this AI gave me a result. So I'll stop here. So to record what we explain, how this agentic system work, once the agent see a complicated prompt, it normally needs to have many rounds of observation, action before it can give you back with a result. So that's why during this time, it really needs us to be patient. Like sometimes it's very, very normal for the agent to just work very long. It's not anything went wrong, but it just needs some time to complete your complicated task. But here we'll just move to this point where after working for several minutes, the AI agent go back to say, oh, you can now go back to this specific folder and then you can check out the results using this command. Um, this is also a point I want to mention is for human agent collaboration, one thing that is a bit different from just chatbot interface is that sometimes or very frequently the agent might also ask a human to do certain part. This is normal because if you think about how human collaborate, right? Oh, sometimes I ask my collaborator to do something, but my collaborator could also ask me to do certain part. So this is a very similar case for human agent collaboration. So suppose you see the agent ask you to do something, it's pretty normal and you don't need to feel it's something weird. And another thing is similar to what I shared before. If you are too confused about, oh, I don't know how to even open my terminal, or I don't know how to run this command. If you have this type of questions, you can just use the interface and ask AI to tell you how to do it. So here, since I'm pretty familiar with the terminal, I'll just proceed and uh, I open the website as what the agent suggests. So this is basically the first version I got by working with the agent for around like 10 minutes. This is also pretty similar to the outcome people normally get. Suppose they just use AI agent to automate their task. So I would say this website is correct, right? It has the name I want, and it also has a lot of different products, but it just looks so so bad, and also just look purely AI generated. It does not have any of my personal characteristic and does not look good at all. So that's the reason I think a lot of time human plays a very very important role to make sure the AI is generating good outcome. Too much time, people would assume, like, suppose I write the initial prompt well, the AI will just deliver a good job. But a lot of time, it is not. Even the outcome is correct by putting more human efforts or having effective collaboration with the agent, we could really uplift what you can get from the AI. So here, definitely, I'm pretty unhappy with the outcome. So I go back to the open code interface so I go back to the open code interface. So what I'm saying is, yeah, I feel I'm pretty impolite to the agent. I normally don't say this to people, but with AI agent, I sometimes just be very, very direct. I say I don't like this food, and also um, I also don't like the style. And here I give an example saying I want a style that is similar to. So Lady M here is another cake shop. I think it has a great online bakery website. This is also another trick. It's more like a trick in prompting. Sometimes people may find it hard to explain what they want to the AI agent. And the way to do it is you can provide some concrete example to the agent because think about it, like these models, they are trained on web data. So probably for many examples you want to mention, these models have seen them in their training data. So here, to save you some energy or to just make it easy for you to describe what you want, you could just add some example and tell agent, oh, I want something to look like that. So here, after I provide this information, the agent they just go to take more observation action like these pairs and go to improve the website. So for the sake of time, I'll directly move to the part where the agent upgrade. So after it reports back again, it basically said, oh, I help you to change the color and the font to make it similar to the example you provide. And also I try to use the images I include in the folder, which is the contacts I set when collaborating with the agent. So as you can see right now, I think this website just looks way more better than the first version the agent gave me, right? So that's the power of having human to collaborate with the agent. Otherwise, if you just let the agent to do on its own, the first version is what you will get. And you can imagine like people would definitely not visit my bakery if they see something like this. And again, this is pretty functioning and I think it also looks better. But for myself in this demo, I'm still unhappy with it because I don't like the text. And also I don't want the website to have the exact color style with another website because this might cause some problem. This is another thing we need to be careful is even though I think setting example in the prompt is a good strategy to communicating with the agent, but we do want to make sure we don't run into copyright issue or we don't want our content to look very similar to existing content on the internet. It's not a good property for the outcome quality. So what I'm doing here is basically I give more suggestion to the agent to suggest it to make it even like change it to use warmer color or use certain font I like. Also, I'm personally against this sophisticated style, so I ask it to be natural and simple. So again, after working for a few minutes, this is what the agent give back to me. So this is the example you guys see when I share what's the outcome of this final collaboration. So I'll probably pause here, but in this demo, since I want ultimately to get a fully functioning online bakery, I also communicate with the agent saying, well, okay, now the front end looks much better. Um, oh, I actually did more back and forth with it since maybe sometimes I have some sort of professionalism in my mind, just want to make things better. Okay, but here, what I say is after I make this front end I'm satisfied with the front end. I did some more testing to see whether it's a really working um, online bakery. What I found is the make order function does not really work. So even though the AI said it's already did all the job, but this part does not work. So this is also one important thing for us to pay attention to in the human agent collaboration is even sometimes the agent said it does something, because it's all coming from the language model and there is no guarantee that the AI won't hallucinate. It still relies on the human judgment. Like you need to test it thoroughly to make sure everything is actually working. So here, after some tests, I actually found a problem where the AI didn't really did it. So I further communicate with the AI to say, oh, what's the next step? And it further tells me like I need to set up some other backend so that I can make the order. But I'll probably just stop here for the demo part. So in the demo video, or like here's basically one example I try to show you normally in my daily work, how I use the agent to ensure I can do the work in a more productive way, but at the same time to ensure my quality is great and the work does not look like purely AI generated. To summarize a little bit, I want to quickly share some high level tips people got from research, both from other people's research and our own research. So in the previous example, it's I'm trying to sharing my individual idea, like try to share a single session to let you know, oh, what are some good strategies. But in this specific study, the study is from Anthropic, which is the company that develops the cloud model. So what they did is they conduct analysis on actual cloud data, which means they have millions of cloud data every day, right? So they just sample a snapshot of the data and use the AI to analyze what are some behavior people exhibit in effective human AI collaboration. So the behavior they discover here, they are coming from vast human data. It's not from a single session I just demoed to you. And what they found is like there will be some high prevalence behaviors, which means already a lot of cloud users are doing that. Like people will have iteration to refine the outcome, to clarify their goal, or to specify desired formats. So this is a good point. It means after a few years, like many people already used to communicating with this AI, and they have some basic prompting idea. However, as you can see, these high prevalence behaviors, they fall in more in the description part, which the description part you can understand more like the prompting itself. However, there will be some important strategies which are about how to discern or how to judge the AI's outcome. This is currently not exhibited by the majority of the users. So it's only a small percentage of pro users. They are trying to really check what the AI agent are doing, right? Such as they will go to question AI reasoning or do some fact checking or identify missing context. This is actually what I did when I'm doing the demo, right? I'm actually asking whether the AI can improve the stuff even more, or I will check, even the AI said it's implement everything. I'll do some testing to make sure, I will know like there will be some part that is actually not working. So these are some behavior that pro users do. And for these people, they would have a more advantage when they are using AI agents. So in our recent study, when we try to compare human agent collaboration results with solo agents prompted by AI researchers. So the solo agent here means just this end-to-end execution. Like, once we have a prompt, we'll just let the agent to do the remaining work. And when we do this head-to-head comparison, we actually see the comparison results is largely depending on the human side, which means like for those people who are not so good in using this agent, like they means like they are in the lower quintile in our study, they cannot really beat the solo agent prompted by AI researcher. So this is probably the zone why some people are keep saying, well, this AI is replacing people's work. Is basically, oh, if you don't really know how to leverage this AI, then well, there is a possibility that someone just prompt the agent one shot, they will do a better job than you. However, when we look at what our pro users does, basically this is a group of people who exhibit high collaboration skill when they are collaborating with AI agents. We do see a very, very positive outcome. Like over 70% of the cases, their outcome is better than suppose I just send a long prompt and let the agent to execute on it all. And when we look at why these people are doing better, it's actually relevant to a lot of AI fluency behaviors identified from Anthropic study. So for some people, if they are good at defining audience for the outcome or setting interaction mode, so these behaviors, like the behaviors marked in blue, they actually have significant correlation with the final task outcome, which means, oh, even before I check your result, even look at how you are using this agent, I can probably predict that, oh, if you are exhibiting this type of behavior, very likely you will get a good collaboration outcome. And in our study, we also found part of these pro users' behaviors, they're actually learnable through practice. So in our study, we let people to not just use the AI agent for one session, but allow them to do multiple sessions. And even just with maybe 5 sessions we did, we do see some behavior change from certain people. So this is another motivation for us to run today's tutorial is we think, oh, it's not like some people are just born to be better in using this agent to help them. But actually, there are a lot of tricks that you can acquire through practice. So finally, since we have 10 minutes left, I do want to quickly still share about how you can use our platform for practice, and we will still use the time to answer your questions. So thank you for staying with us. So to help people so previously we developed this platform, which is called Collaborate Gym. The motivation is mainly to evaluate agents in the human AI collaboration setup. As you can imagine, even some agents, they do really well in automation setup. It does not mean it will directly work very, very well with human. However, since we run a lot of study and for a lot of things I shared before, we now did a major update to our Collaborate Gym platform to allow people to also use the platform to practice their human skill in using this agent. So what would we support is we actually curate a lot of task environments for different occupation. So basically task environments, they would contain more than the task description, but also the execution environment where it includes all the file you need and basically a lot of other information you can check. And on our platform, we group this task environment based on the occupational data. So suppose you are currently a financial analyst, you can select this and on our platform, we will randomly match you with some tasks so you can try it out with the agent. And we will have a mechanism to give you a grading and help you to know whether you are doing a good job or not. And even if you are not working the exact occupation, for example, right now you are not in this job, but suppose you are considering um, trying to explore job in a certain domain, you can also select it to use the platform to practice your skill. And another thing we support is from, I think one definition for the skill is it really takes time to acquire. So it's very hard for you to acquire any skill if you don't spend enough time on it. So we on our platform, we also help people to keep track of how how well or like just basically their behavior change. So suppose you join our platform for over a week, so we will share with you your weekly report. It will give you an idea of, oh, what's the mode you normally collaborate with agent. Are you trying to use the agent in an autonomous way or you are having a lot of interaction with agent? I'll skip the part a little bit. And also we will help you to check um, your behavior change across week, like different week, are your mode have any change, or like basically what type of task you are sending to agent. Are you sending the agent very basic tasks, such as just writing email or summarizing documents, or are you able to work with the agent on more critical or complicated tasks, like those tasks similar to what I demo, it might need hours to finish. And another interesting part is we will also share with you this behavior analysis of your working style with the agent. So, for example, here, um, I actually found it sometimes very amusing to look at what the AI is analysis on my working style. So it said, oh, you possess high level technical competence, like you are able to navigate complex repositories. However, you are having some almost beginner anxiety regarding on some low level stuff. This suggests a mental model gap where you can manage project structure but lack confidence in low level details. I actually agree with it. So it's sometimes interesting for us to also look at this behavior analysis because we might not notice how we are using agent. But after, for example, here, after I look at it, I will focus more next time to also pay attention to these low level details and not being too anxious. And this feature, I also want to shout it out to my lab mate Dora. This is based on her research, which tried to inferring user motivations from unstructured interactions. So basically, all the behavior indicators induced here is not low level, like very basic or superficial intents, but this high level understanding sometimes the user themselves does not really realize. Okay, so basically this is all I want to share today. And suppose you are interested in using our platform to practice. As I mentioned before, we will provide you with the free cloud subscription. So to make sure you can actually use the agents to do the work. And I understand that it's sometimes pretty hard to really spend some time to acquire the skill. So our team is also trying to set up some bonus to make the experience more engaging. So basically, if you are interested in joining this to use our platform and get this cloud subscription, you can use this form. And Boom will later help to send the cloud subscription to people who sign up. So for Boom, could you also send the link to the live chat so people can directly click it? Okay, that's all I want to share today. And I have to admit, I'm quite nervous, but it's really glad like there will be still many people staying us till the end. And I think it's a great time for us now to check out our questions. You can still use this QR code, but I think we will also send the link in the live chat so to make it easy for people to sign up. Okay. Well, I think there are many questions here, and for the sake of time, I'll try to answer all of them. But if you are have other things, you can feel free to leave the call. So the first question we got is, oh, the first question is just like someone said, is whether there will be opportunities to collaborate with our guys. I think for our team right now, it's a bit hard for us, to be honest, to collaborate with external collaborator. But we are indeed observing. We are indeed trying to set up some channel to involve more people to work in this direction. So to be very frank, one major motivation for me to either run this tutorial or do many relevant stuff is mainly because compared to those people who are working on fully autonomous agents, there aren't so many people are interested in human agent collaboration, although I think it's really, really important to have more people to work on pro-human technology. So we're trying to find a way to engage the community or let more people to collaborate with us. But right now, to directly collaborate with us at Stanford, this is a bit hard because of a lot of restrictions the university has. Um, and another question people have is basically explain about the token. So token is more like a measurement of both the input and output. So if you look at how the major model provider ask like charge you, right? They charge you based on the token. So every time when the agentic system send a prompt to the language model, the token means like each subunit within the prompt. You can normally understand it as like a word, even though it's more complicated. Like there will be different strategy to derive the token, but roughly you can understand each token as one word. So, for example, if this sentence I will think like could would be one token and you would be another token. And basically, the model provider will charge you based on how many tokens you send to the model and also how many tokens the model generate back. That's why sometimes using this agentic system, it does cost a lot of money just because even by even when you send one prompt to the agent, under the hood, the agent will call the language models multiple times, and each time it will cost a lot of tokens. So that's why sometimes when we choose which model to use, we also want to just check our budget, and there can be um, it can be a more efficient way to choose which model to use. Yeah, and for this new question, yeah, we will share the presentation as well. We'll probably share, we will link it maybe to the comment section of this live tutorial. Yeah, this is also a good question. So basically, this person is asking, I just explained in the first part of today's tutorial that compared to a pure language model, the agent has tools, memories, and also it will execute a train of prompts. So the person is asking, is a memory stored as a file locally or remotely in the agent's server? So both different agents implement things differently. So for example, if you are using OpenAI's like online, I think they also have their agent mode on their OpenAI ChatGPT.com. Then for that specific case, um, it is stored in their server. But for a lot of other implementation, like if you heard recently, there is a very popular agent called like CloudBot. So for that, they just store the memory as a markdown file in your local folder. So the markdown file is just basically a file format. Like they will organize the memory in different level, and those information are stored locally. So basically, my answer is both implementation are adopted in today's commercial agents. However, ultimately, your memory would still be sent to the model provider because ultimately the agent is sending a huge prompt to the model provider. So even it's stored locally, the model provider will still see the memory. So suppose they are doing some bad things, then this might be concerning. And if you are interested about more privacy, I think there are some other interesting material to check it out. Um, yeah, so this question I probably won't discuss it today. Like this person is asking, oh, can we share more resource about how this agent are actually trained or built? So today's tutorial is more for helping people to understand how to use these agents. But this is a good question. I think we will later maybe also answer this question by sending some pointers in our comment panel in today's live stream. This person is asking, oh, this is what types of pastures. I think this is a bit off the topic, but I think after I joined this PhD program, I indeed getting better in doing this because sometimes I just feel very, very stressed and I use a way to distress myself. And hopefully more people will join the line of research we are doing. So it will free up my time to improve my skill even more in making pastures. um, so This person is basically asking specifically about open code because when we are doing the demo, we are using open code. As I said, it has a good property of allowing you to choose different models. So this person is asking, um, how does open code plus a certain, so opers here means a specific version of the anthropic model. So to be honest, I haven't really make this head-to-head comparison because normally if you want to use opers model, the most economically efficient ways to sign up their Cloud Pro. This is something we would offer if you fill in that form. And that is usually takes less money compared to you use it directly by token. So that's why I haven't really tried open code plus opers and I cannot answer this specific question. But so far, based on my experience of using open code, I think the majority of the user experience is just very, very similar to Cloud Code itself. But I'm not very sure whether the underlying agent implementation will have a major difference or not. But if you have ever tried it out, feel free to maybe share it in the comments panel in our live stream so other people can know this answer. Yeah, so for this question, I think we just explained at the end. I'll just bypass it. Yeah, this is another good question. So the person is asking, could I discuss a little bit about the possible risk and maybe how we can avoid them while collaborating with agents? This is a very, very good question. And it's another major reason I think having this agent to work with human rather than end-to-end automation is very important. There are three, I think, major risks I could share. The first risk is something very obvious. It's basically sometimes the agent may do something wrong, right? It may just overwrite certain files or delete certain folders. These are some canonical example for those people who are studying AI risk. So these are something you can imagine. Suppose the human is working with the agent, at least the human can be another check to avoid these very basic issues to happen. So this is the first level of risk. Basically, it's coming from the capability limit of the agent. The second risk is sometimes the agent may disguise people or just like fake things they haven't do. So even in my demo, right, I show you, even though the agent said it's already finished everything, but after I did some check, I see it actually didn't really help me implement the checkout feature. So this is a risk where suppose you are working on really high stake and complicated task. Suppose the agent just said it did something, it can be really hard for human to verify. So this risk more coming from the difficulty for human to verify the agent's outcome. So a way to avoid this type of risk is actually to collaborate with the agent at the correct granularity, I would say. So even in the demo I share, before I let the agent do something, I will try to get the overall idea of what are some steps, right? Step 1 to 5 I need to do to complete the task. And then I would be able to work on each small step with the agent. So in this way, I would get more control of what I'm working with the agent instead of, oh, the agent go to work for a really long time and give me back something that I cannot verify at all. However, I don't think there's a 100% way to protect yourself from that, but this is a suggestion I would give basically to work with the agent in the level that you can oversee or you can verify. And actually, there is a third level of risk. I think it's more from the human side. Is sometimes I worry quite a lot, especially when working with some undergrad today. Is basically the skill of human. So compared to when I was an undergrad student, at that time I would spend a lot of time just debugging. Like debugging can take really really long time. Even though it's a bit frustrating at that time, it really teach me a lot of details and also make me more detail driven and resilience. So this is something right now, suppose people just use agent blindly, I think they will be de-skilled really fast. Like think about suppose you just send what your boss told you to do to the agent and don't care about the result, just let the agent automate. Then probably you won't learn anything in the process, right? This will, I think this is another major risk of using this agent. So that's why for a lot of behavior indicator or like this suggested behavior we share in today's tutorial, I think it's not only for making sure the collaboration outcome is great, but also a way for us humans to maintain our skill to avoid being de-skilled due to the use of AI agents. So these are, I think, some three type of major risks when using this agent. And I think each of them, there will be some mitigation if we can collaborate with them well. But I think it's still a very, very good question how we can make sure people can use these agents in a very, very safe way. Mm, yeah, and there is another question. I think this might not relevant to the majority of the people here because it's asking about the future of research. But I do want to give some answers here. So I can share a story. So even in Stanford, I think several teams they are working on automating research. So they are working on building AI to automating AI research. And for a person, I think he's doing amazing work. One thing he shared with me is that for the majority of tasks that would have a verifiable outcome and a scalar reward, AI agent is very likely to do better than any human in optimizing for that task. So what does it mean? Let me explain to you. So those tasks with verifiable reward means suppose you just submit the outcome, there will be a way to give you the score automatically. This can be something like those old benchmark, like reasoning benchmark, or optimizing GPU kernel, right? Once you submit a kernel implementation, the system will tell you how fast it runs. For this type of task, it also need to have scalar reward, means it's not 0 and 1. For tasks such as curing cancer, this is different because it's cure the cancer or not cure the cancer. But for the task I just shared, such as optimizing benchmark or optimizing the kernel speed, these are the score that you will have a continuous scalar. And what they found is like for this task, AI already do a very, very good job and they can top the leaderboard for majority of these tasks. So this is kind of scary for us as human researcher, right? It means we probably shouldn't spend too much time working on those tasks. However, we should work on the task that does not have those properties. So for example, for the research I am working on, I'm focused on like human agent collaboration. And naturally, there will be a lot of fuzziness that the AI cannot handle. And I think that's one part of like why human researchers still has a very important role to be here. But definitely there will be a lot of other tasks like right like those 0 and 1 things such as curing cancer or like most more complicated research problem. So for a short answer to this question, I do think given the AI are getting better and agents are able to doing AI research, it's very, very important for us humans to think about what problem we pick. So this question I cannot answer unfortunately because I don't really know RTCF prompting. I will go to search after this live stream. Thank you for letting me to know something new. Um, yeah, there's another question about the memory. Can the memory be deleted? Yes. So I think for those memory which are stored on like people's server, like normally they would also expose the interface for you to delete the memory. And suppose the memory is saved locally, you can also directly open the memory file to change it. This is actually what many people are doing. So they directly modify the memory when to make sure the agent is aligned with their behavior. So in terms of for one specific agent, how to modify the memory part, if you are unclear about it, the best way is to send this question to the AI and it will tell you how to do it. Yeah, this question, yeah, this live stream, it seems like many people want to watch it afterwards. So we will just keep it live and it will be the same link. So basically we will end this live stream very soon, but people will still be able to watch it. And I will post those answers to some questions in the comments panel as well. Yeah, so for this question, it's a bit sad, like so far for the free access, we can only give to people who are located in the US. This is because I'm still a Stanford PhD student and the work we are doing, we need to be overseen by Stanford. So this is what they required us. So unfortunately, we cannot give it to you directly. But if you are interested in learning about the materials I share, we can still add you to the channel, and later we will share you the materials. So suppose you are there, I think even you cannot get access to Cloud Pro, you can consider using other models which you have access to. But I'm pretty sorry about this, but this is mainly because of university restriction. Yeah, so this question I think is relevant to the answer I just gave when discussing the memory part. So this person is saying, oh, if I import some confidential data, even using open code, does it mean your data is exposed to everybody? So I think it won't be exposed to everybody, but when the agent is sending the prompt to the language model provider, your data is still sent to the language model provider. So basically, the language provider will see your data. But normally, most language model providers, such as OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, they won't put your data to everybody. So, however, there is a lot of concern about whether they would use your data for training and things like that. And sometimes it's pretty tricky. Like, I think most of the model, their default is to use your data for training. So if you are uncomfortable with this, you probably need to search for the model provider you use how to turn it down, like to explicitly say that you don't want your data to be used for training. But I think your data will still be go to the model provider, but it will not be exposed to everybody. Okay, it seems like we moved to the final question. So the person is saying, what impact does installing these agents have on personal device in terms of performance, monitoring, or access? So I would say, basically, installing these agents, they're just similar to installing other software, right? As I explained in the first part of our tutorial, it's nothing mysterious. It's basically a program that to get the observation and then to concatenate a large prompt and send to a model provider and then get back the action and try to execute. So basically, it's just similar to a normal software, and it won't be it's actually not that large compared to some video editing software, things like that. So it will not normally slow down your personal device too much. But definitely, if you use these agents to do really high resource stuff, right? If it needs to open several very large files, it might slow down the performance of your laptop a little bit. I don't really understand what you mean by monitoring or access to the personal device, but basically, you can understand installing the agents on your computer as installing a normal software. The only thing to consider is, oh, those information they will still be sent to the model provider, so you might need to be careful with that, unless you are using self-host model. Like suppose you really run a model on your device, which means the language model itself on your device, you can prevent that. But otherwise, if you are using other model provider, your data will be shared. So this is something you need to be careful. But in terms of whether installing these agents will hurt your computer, I don't think you need to worry as long as you are installing the agents from the trustworthy source. The only thing to be careful is sometimes as the agents, they have the tool to execute things on your environment, such as writing file, reading file, or even deleting file. You might need to oversee what the agents are actually doing to avoid like suddenly the agent is deleting files. Okay, great. I think that's probably the end of today's tutorial. I really appreciate for people for joining me, and as I said, I'm quite nervous, and I hope I make the hour worthwhile. And if you guys are interested in knowing more, feel free to also comment in this live stream to let us know what else you guys want to know, and we will see what are some good way to share the information. Since I think this is a good use of my time since I'm still in the PhD program. And again, just for reminder for people who want to sign up for this crowd access and use our platform to practice, please use this QR code or go to this link. Okay, thank you so much for joining us today, and I wish you a nice evening.